Hello, good evening, and welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Joel Richard, and first a quick look at the top stories this evening. President Trump sends envoys to Russia and Ukraine as peace plan enters new phase. Democrats move to restrict donors as President Donald Trump expands White House ballroom project. Portland man accused of making graphic threats against federal officers. Colorado parents sue school district after girl was forced to share a bed with trans-identifying male students. Female athlete awarded World's Strongest Woman title after rival disqualified. Now to the news. President Donald Trump has announced that his administration has fine-tuned its proposal to end the war in Ukraine and is dispatching senior envoys to press the plan with both Moscow and Kiev. Real estate executive and special envoy Steve Witkoff will travel to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin, while Army Secretary Dan Driscoll has been tasked with engaging Ukrainian officials. The latest diplomatic push comes as Driscoll held talks with Russian officials in Abu Dhabi on Monday and Tuesday, with a spokesman saying discussions are going well and that Washington remains optimistic. President Trump's peace framework, first revealed last week, has drawn criticism for terms widely viewed as favorable to Moscow, prompting Ukraine to push for changes and European allies to scramble for input. Even as negotiations advance, fighting on the ground has intensified. Russia launched a major overnight barrage on Kiev, firing 22 missiles of various types and more than 460 drones. Ukraine, for its part, carried out one of its largest drone strikes on Russian territory since the war began in February 2022, hitting targets in the southern Krasnodar region in occupied Crimea. Russian authorities said 6 people were wounded as their defenses destroyed hundreds of drones, while Ukraine claimed hits on an aircraft repair plant, a drone production facility, an oil refinery, and an oil terminal. European leaders have warned that despite the new diplomatic momentum, the path to a durable peace will be long, with Zelensky saying the current list of steps to end the war can become workable, but will require further talks on sensitive issues directly with President Trump. Watch this.
Tonight, President Trump shared they are making progress in efforts to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, with President Zelensky saying they are ready to advance the U.S.-backed framework for a peace deal.
That framework is on the table, and we are ready to move forward together with the United States of America, with personal engagement of President Trump.
On social media, the commander-in-chief said the original 28-point peace plan that was drafted by the U.S. has been fine-tuned, with additional input from both sides, and there are only a few remaining points of disagreement. Kyiv and Moscow are now negotiating on multiple fronts as the White House directed U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to meet with Russian President Putin.
Nice to see you.
And Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll to sit down with Ukraine's leaders. While in the Rose Garden Tuesday, the commander-in-chief said,
"It's not easy, but I don't know. I think we're going to get there. 25,000 soldiers, Ukraine, Russia. In the last month, 25,000 soldiers have died. So I think we're getting very close to a deal. We'll find."
Furthermore, Democrats in Congress are pushing new limits on private contributions to President Donald Trump's $300 million White House ballroom project, claiming corporate donors may be attempting to buy influence. The project, which began in October and involves replacing the East Wing, is being financed entirely through private donations, a point the White House says protects taxpayers from the costs. The price tag rose from an initial $200 million estimate when President Donald Trump first unveiled the plan this summer. Legislation spearheaded by Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Robert Garcia would bar donations from any individual or organization deemed to have a conflict of interest and would prohibit the president, vice president, or their staff from soliciting contributors. Democrats argue that companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, and Lockheed Martin could benefit from favorable treatment by the Trump administration. They highlight Google's recent $22 million settlement with President Donald Trump related to censorship claims and an ongoing antitrust case as examples of why, in their view, at least, more oversight is needed. The proposal would also mandate additional disclosures from donors, ban anonymous contributions, prevent naming rights or recognition displays, and impose a 2-year lobbying freeze on those who give. Supporters say these measures would limit the potential for a pay-to-play relationship, though they offer absolutely no evidence that any donor has received or requested special treatment from the administration. Democrats further claim that the Ballroom project could become a vehicle for corruption, despite similar privately funded upgrades occurring across multiple presidencies with very little controversy from their side. The White House dismissed the Democrat-led effort as political harassment, accusing critics of being able to accept improvements made under President Donald Trump's leadership. Spokesman Davis Ingle said the president is making the White House beautiful and giving it the glory it deserves, that only those suffering from intense anti-Trump bias would object to a privately funded renovation that saves taxpayers a lot of money. President Donald Trump has launched several modernization projects during his second term, including enhancements to the Oval Office and updates to the Rose Garden. More news in the United States tonight. A Portland man is facing federal charges after authorities say he repeatedly threatened to kill ICE officers and harm their families during a series of violent and anti-law enforcement outbursts. The FBI confirmed that 45-year-old John Paul Cupp allegedly shouted threats at officers outside an ICE facility in South Portland before taking those threats online in multiple videos. Federal filings detail graphic statements targeting officers, their wives, and even their children. According to the Justice Department, Cupp's behavior escalated throughout October and November as he continued posting threats on social media, urging violence toward federal agents. Officials described him as a prolific online agitator who frequently posts extremist rhetoric, anti-Semitic content, and messages promoting war against the United States. The case highlights a growing pattern of hostility toward law enforcement in cities dominated by far-left activism. Federal officials pushed back strongly against the threats. FBI Director Kash Patel said anyone who targets law enforcement or their families will face the full weight of the federal government, emphasizing that threats against officers are not protected speech. The U.S. Attorney's Office for Oregon echoed that message, also noting that intimidation and violence against those enforcing the law will not be tolerated. Acting FBI Portland Special Agent in charge, Matt Torres, added that such rhetoric has absolutely no place in our community. The incident marks another flashpoint in Portland, a city long criticized for allowing extremist activism and anti-police hostility to flourish. Now, with federal officers already facing heightened risk amid lax local enforcement, the case underscores ongoing concerns about public safety and the rising boldness of far-left agitators. The Biden administration has faced repeated criticism, especially from allies of President Donald Trump, for failing to clamp down on violent anti-ICE extremism as border-related tensions grow nationwide. Watch this.
Social media content creator John Paul Cupp, who goes by Waleed Al-Amriki online, is facing a federal charge accused of threatening federal agents at the South Portland ICE facility. Court documents say Cupp, who calls himself the public relations director of the North American Resistance Committee, had been on law enforcement's radar for months after several online tips about his violent anti-Jewish posts, references to Islamic Jihad, and rhetoric about overthrowing the U.S. government. The FBI says Cupp began showing up to protests at the ICE facility in June, posting to social media that he would, quote, troll these ICE losers. A criminal complaint alleges that on October 14th, video captured Cupp threatening to kill officers and sexually assault their spouses, including the line, quote, I'm going to have your head on a stick and mail it to your wife. In November, investigators say Cupp repeated those threats in new social media posts. He allegedly made a TikTok urging followers to, quote, demasculate them, taunt them, and mock their authority. The U.S. Attorney's Office for Oregon said Monday that threats of violence against law enforcement and their families will not be tolerated.
Several Colorado families have taken legal action against Jefferson County Public Schools after their 11-year-old daughters were allegedly forced into overnight rooming situations with biologically male students who identify as female. The lawsuit filed by Alliance Defending Freedom argues that the district secretly houses students based on gender identity rather than biological sex, without notifying parents or allowing any opt-out whatsoever. According to court documents, one girl on a school trip to Washington, D.C. discovered at bedtime that the student assigned to share her bed was a biological boy. Parents say they were assured before the trip that boys and girls would be placed on separate hotel floors, but the lawsuit claims the district followed a quiet policy allowing room assignments solely by gender identity. The girl immediately called her mother, who was serving as a nearby chaperone, and the parents reported that she was extremely distressed by the situation. The complaint also cites additional cases, including an 11-year-old boy allegedly supervised in showers by a biologically female counselor identifying as non-binary. ADF attorneys say the district has violated parental rights, religious rights, and the privacy rights of the affected students. Senior counsel Kate Anderson said the government has no authority to force minors into intimate sleeping arrangements with the opposite sex, adding that parents, not school bureaucrats, have the responsibility to protect their children. The families argue the district is refusing to offer equal accommodations for students whose beliefs require sex-separated spaces while claiming to freely grant accommodations to all. The news will be back after this break.
In a world that's always moving, staying connected to the right resources makes all the difference. Welcome to the Loveworld App Store, the digital home of everything that powers your journey in the Loveworld nation. Here, discovery is simple and meaningful. With our categories section, you can explore a wide range of apps designed to enrich your spirit.
I'm praying especially for you. You that have been sick. You need a miracle.
On the Loveworld App Store, you can access all your favorite apps, such as Healing School app, King's Chat, PCDL, Rhapsody app, Love Tunes, ESPYs, Loveworld Worship, Herald app, Alpha TV, King's View, C-Flix, Hello Loveworld, PCDL for kids, King's Conference, and so much more. Each application is created to serve a unique purpose and bring you closer to a life of impact. Explore My App feature, where your most valued tools are gathered in one convenient place. It's your personalized hub, ready whenever you are. The Loveworld App Store is more than a collection of apps. It's a vibrant ecosystem built to inspire faith, foster connection, and equip you for impact. Visit www.lwappstore.com to download the app on your device. Explore a world where purpose meets technology. Loveworld App Store. All your world in one place.
Welcome back. A female British strongwoman has been crowned the 2025 World's Strongest Woman after the original winner was disqualified following questions over eligibility. Andrea Thompson, who initially finished second by a single point in the open women's category at the competition in Arlington, Texas, was elevated to first place after organizers removed Jamie Booker from the results. The decision came after online scrutiny resurfaced a 2017 YouTube video in which Booker described being trans, and commentators raised concerns and questions about eligibility in the women's division. In a statement on Tuesday, official strongman said Booker was disqualified because competitors can only compete in a category for the biological sex recorded at birth, adding that the organization had not been aware of the allegations before or during the event. Thompson, who previously won the World's Strongest Woman title in 2018 and has multiple podium finishes at the event, was later congratulated publicly by her coach, Lawrence Chalet, who said the women's classes exist for a reason, while also stating support for people living as they chose. Official strongman said it had attempted to contact Booker but had not received a response. Booker, who has competed in 3 women's events this year, had earlier celebrated the results on social media and described the competition as a major step in a growing strength career. The ruling places Thompson back at the top of the sport's marquee women's contest and reinforces official strongman's policy of basing men's and women's categories on biological sex. The organization said it remains inclusive and open to all athletes, but has a responsibility to ensure fairness across its divisions as debates over eligibility in women's sports continue in strength athletics and other disciplines. Let's have a look.
The final of the 2025 World's Strongest Woman competition descended into chaos, provoking outrage from coaches and athletes. American Jamie Booker, alleged to be a biological male, triumphed over Great Britain's Andrea Thompson at the event in Arlington, Texas. However, Thompson left the stage looking as if he had said, "This is bulls," while Booker was in celebration. Her coach and a few of her colleagues have since dubbed the Brit the true world's strongest woman.
On the health and business front, Tyson Foods will shut down a major beef processing plant in Nebraska early next year and also scale back operations in Texas. A move the company says is necessary as America's cattle supplies hit historic lows. The Lexington, Nebraska facility, employing roughly 3,200 workers, will close in January next year, while the Amarillo, Texas plant will drop to one full capacity shift, affecting about 1,700 additional workers. The company said the cuts reflect a nationwide decline in cattle inventories, which are falling to their lowest levels in 70 years. Years of drought and strained agricultural resources have driven ranchers to shrink herds, creating tighter supplies and pushing beef prices sharply higher. Tyson said it will redistribute production to other facilities and help displaced workers find positions elsewhere. The cattle shortage has fueled steep price increases across the beef market, with the Bureau of Labor Statistics reporting year-over-year price spikes topping 14% for beef and veal. Ground beef, steaks, and roasts have all surged well above the national inflation rate. Industry experts note that rebuilding herds takes years, meaning consumers may see elevated prices well into President Donald Trump's administration, as policies take years to stabilize producers. Tyson's beef unit posted hundreds of millions of dollars in losses over the past 2 fiscal years, even as Americans spent more than $40 billion on fresh beef in 2024. With demand remaining strong despite soaring prices, the company projects further losses next year. Trump administration has already ordered the Justice Department to investigate suspected collusion in the meatpacking sector, aiming to ensure fair pricing and greater transparency for ranchers and consumers alike. Watch this.
The news of Tyson closing its Lexington, Nebraska facility and downsizing its Amarillo, Texas plant to one shift is a result of the lack of cattle to fill packing capacity.
Currently in these fed plants, we've been running in 75, 76% utilization, and that simply does not work. And it's even worse in the cow plants. Cow plants have been running in the utilization in the mid to upper 60% range.
He says that's led to negative packer margins. Tyson's annual report this last year showing operating losses in the beef division of over $1.1 billion, with adjusted operating losses of $426 million.
And you look at the packer margins where they've been losing, anywhere from $50 to $250 to $300 per head. And so they've had to adjust.
So Tyson is shifting production to other plants to increase efficiency. But why close Lexington? Analysts speculate competition from the new sustainable beef plant in North Platte may have played a role.
Moving up to the Thanksgiving holiday, major U.S. airlines have activated contingency plans to keep Thanksgiving travel moving after a leak forced the shutdown of the Olympic pipeline, the primary jet fuel supply source for Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. The 400-mile pipeline operated by BP was taken offline earlier this month. Repairs had not been completed as of November 20th. Washington's governor declared an emergency, citing the disruption to the airport's fuel supply. Delta Airlines said a small number of long-haul flights departing Seattle will make brief refueling stops while the pipeline remains closed. The airline is also trucking additional fuel to the airport to supplement reserves and issued a customer flexibility waiver in case schedule changes become necessary. Alaska Airlines implemented similar measures, but said it does not expect disruptions to its operations. Airlines are coordinating closely with refineries, airport officials, and pipeline operators as they work to maintain normal schedules during the busy holiday travel period. Carriers are using tanker truck deliveries and mid-route fuel stops as temporary solutions, while BP investigates the cause of the leak and determines when the pipeline can be restarted. No estimate has been provided for repairs. Fuel supply interruption adds pressure to holiday travel season already expected to break records. Despite the disruption, airlines report that flights are continuing as planned, with contingency measures in place until the pipeline resumes operations. Let's have a look.
Scheduling some long-haul flights to make a pit stop for jet fuel is one way airlines are dealing with being cut off abruptly from their jet fuel supply, right in the middle of one of the busiest holiday travel times. This is an important week.
It is. We're going to see my mother, my sister, our daughter, so family trip.
Alaska Airlines told me 12 long-haul flights a day will make a stop to refuel.
We just got a notification that our Alaska Airlines flight was delayed today.
How's that sitting with you?
It's, a little bit of an inconvenience because we have dinner reservations in Texas, and so we might be late for our dinner reservations.
The Olympic pipeline sprung a leak 2 weeks ago and will remain shut down until BP crews find the source and make repairs.
News continues after this break. Stay with us.
It's easy to set up, quick to start, and packed with value. Smarter streaming starts here with the Alpha TV Stick. Just plug and stream anytime, anywhere. Discover a curated lineup of content designed to inspire, live broadcasts and global events, inspirational films and series, children's programming, healing and teaching sessions, all on demand. With millions of downloads worldwide, the Alpha TV app is transforming lives across the globe. And now, we're on a mission to reach 1 billion downloads of the Alpha TV app, and you can be part of it. Join the global wave with 1 billion Alpha TV app downloads worldwide. Bring the higher life into every home. Order your Alpha TV Stick today and experience smarter streaming. Alpha, the higher life is here.
On the international front tonight, all 24 Nigerian schoolgirls abducted last week by armed men in Kebbi State have been rescued. President Bola Tinubu announced on Tuesday. The girls were seized in the early hours of November 17 by gunmen wielding sophisticated weapons, according to police reports. Tinubu said he was relieved that all the 24 girls have been accounted for and confirmed that they had been safely recovered, though authorities released no operational details about how the rescue was even carried out or who was even responsible for the kidnapping. The abduction in Kebbi is part of a broader pattern of mass kidnappings that has destabilized communities in northern and central Nigeria in recent years. Attackers frequently target schools, churches, and other soft civilian locations, often in rural areas where security is thin. In his statement, Tinubu said Nigeria must, as a matter of urgency, deploy more security personnel to vulnerable regions to prevent further incidents, signaling renewed pressure on federal and state authorities to strengthen basic protection for schools and local communities. The rescue in Kebbi came just days after a separate large-scale abduction at a Catholic school in Niger State, where more than 300 students and staff were seized on Friday. School officials said that around 50 students aged 10 to 18 managed to escape individually between Friday and Saturday. But more than 250 students and a dozen teachers remain in captivity. The latest kidnappings have renewed concerns about the safety of Christian institutions and schools in parts of the country where armed groups, bandits, and extremist elements have been active. Nigeria has faced mounting international scrutiny over rising attacks on Christians and repeated strikes on schools and villages. The United States, under President Donald Trump, has designated Nigeria a country of particular concern for religious freedom violations, citing ongoing violence against Christian communities and their institutions. Nigerian authorities, however, have pushed back on those assessments, even as pressure grows at home and abroad for Abuja to deliver lasting security, dismantle kidnapping networks, and also ensure that rescued students and their families receive protection and adequate support. Watch this.
The Chief of Army Staff of Nigeria confirmed at the meeting that 50 school children who were kidnapped last week have escaped captivity and are safe.
Presently, we are receiving very good positive news from the Kwara State, where the entire 38 people that were abducted have been reunited with their families. And progress is also made from Niger State, whereby we have 51 of those students that have now reunited with their families.
A total of 303 school children and 12 teachers were abducted by gunmen during an attack on St. Mary's School last Friday. No group has claimed the responsibility for the kidnappings. The authorities have said tactical squads have been deployed alongside local hunters to rescue the children.
Going across the world tonight, Australian Senator Pauline Hanson has been suspended from Parliament for 7 sitting days after entering the Senate chamber wearing a full burqa to protest what she described as the government's refusal to consider a national ban on full face coverings. Hansen, the 71-year-old leader of the One Nation Party, walked into the chamber on Monday in the head-to-ankle garment to highlight her bill seeking to prohibit a burqa and other full-face coverings in public places. She was initially suspended for the rest of the day, and today the Senate passed a censure motion that effectively bars her for the remainder of the year's sittings, with a suspension to continue when Parliament resumes in February. Hansen argued that her actions exposed what she called hypocrisy in Parliament, noting that there is no formal dress code on the Senate floor, yet she was punished for wearing the garment she's seeking to ban. She said voters, not fellow senators, would ultimately judge her conduct at the next federal election in 2028. Hansen has long campaigned on stricter immigration and integration measures and has previously worn a burqa in the Senate in 2017 as part of a similar protest, though she was not disciplined at that time. Government Senate leader Penny Wong moved a censure motion accusing Hansen of mocking and vilifying an entire faith and warning that such displays risk deepening social divisions. Wong said Hansen's actions were hurtful to Australia's nearly 1 million Muslims and could have cruel consequences for vulnerable communities, including students. Muslim Senator Miran Faruqi backed the motion and called for broader action against what she described as entrenched racism, while fellow Muslim Senator Fatima Payman criticized Hansen's use of the burqa as disgraceful and a shame. The incident adds to a long-running national debate in Australia over identity, religious expression, and immigration. Hansen is currently appealing a separate ruling that found she breached racial anti-discrimination laws in a social media post directed at Faruqi. Muslim community leaders, including the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils, condemned her latest protests as part of a pattern of targeting Muslims and migrants. Hansen supporters, however, view her stance as a push for stronger cultural cohesion and security, setting up a controversy as another flashpoint between advocates of tighter integration rules and defenders of expansive protection for religious and cultural expression. Let's take a look.
It's walking into the Senate chamber wearing a burqa. Now, this comes after earlier this afternoon, she had attempted to move a bill in the Senate to ban the burqa and similar face coverings from being worn in public places. To make a point, she says she's now walked into Parliament wearing the burqa, which has triggered a short suspension now. There was quite some backlash from other senators calling her out for this behaviour. Viewers might remember a similar occasion in 2017 where Senator Hansen also did this, wearing the burqa in the chamber in protest, trying to get support for her burqa ban bill. Let's show you some of the reaction that took place here, noting that the Senate, in response to this, has now suspended while they deal with it. That's the phrasing that's being used. Some Green senators even calling for Senator Hansen to be suspended temporarily. But let's show you some of the reaction that's just come through.
Clearly, what has happened today is not a genuine demonstration of faith. In fact, it is the middle finger to people of faith. It is extremely racist and unsafe.
Senator Hansen, all of us in this place have a great privilege in coming into this chamber, a great privilege. And we represent, in our states, people of every faith, of all backgrounds, and we should do so decently.
Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news tonight, we'll have a quick recap of the top headlines. President Trump sends envoys to Russia and Ukraine as peace plan enters new phase. Democrats move to restrict donors as President Donald Trump expands White House ballroom project. Portland man accused of making graphic threats against federal officers. Colorado parents sue school district after girl was forced to share bed with trans-identifying male student. Female athlete awarded world's strongest woman title after rival disqualified. And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Joel Richard signing off. God bless you, God bless our armed forces, and God bless the United States of America.